Okay, is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hmm. Um, Until last week, we have discussed regarding the fire extinguishers, types of fire extinguishers, and what conditions it has to be used, and what type should be used. Depends on the fire and the material it's firing. Okay, and today we will be seeing fire emergency evacuation plan. In case of any fire emergency, what we have to do, and if it's out of our hands, how to evacuate, and some plan should be there, right? In the environment, we will be in our part, like a safety department part, we will be preparing all the evacuation plans. Like any in the previous classes, we have discussed regarding this one, the spillage plan, chemical spillage plan, emergency. It's also one of the emergency. Fire will be also an emergency, and any other emergency, accident, like it have gas release. Different types of emergencies will be there. For all these emergency, we will be making our plan for further purposes. In case of emergency, what we'll be doing, and how to the step-by-step process, how to evacuate, what to do in case of an emergency, and everything we will be writing down as a plan. Same like that, for the fire emergency also, we will be making a plan. That's evacuation plan. But not for the minor fires. For the only for the major fires, we will be preparing this one. Yeah, we'll be seeing what is an this one, fire emergency evacuation plan. Like other emergency evacuation plans, it is also a written document where we'll be including the action, uh, what what will be the action of actions to be taken by all the employees in case of any fire, and what will be the arrangements, and in case of any this fire event of a fire, what we'll be doing, how will be evacuating, and how we will be alarming the emergency departments. Like for this one, for fire emergency, we'll be informing directly to the fire department or the fire brigade team if it's available within the organization. Like same wise, we will be reporting for the other emergencies also. Everything will be having an action plan and reporting system as well. Like organization chart, we will be preparing the chart based on the emergency team and who are the trainers and whom we have to report in case of fire emergency or any other types of emergency. We will be giving all the information in the evacuation plan itself, what to do and how to report, whom to report in case of an any fire, major fires. Then even the contact numbers, we will be mentioning all the contact numbers and designation names in the flow chart. We'll be having some flow chart for the reporting system. Based on that one, we'll be reporting. And in some cases, like enclosed areas like buildings, in if we will be working inside any buildings, already you like processing plants, inside the processing plants, if you will be sitting in the office or the control room, in case of emergency, what you will do. So everything will be there. We'll be including all these information in the plan itself. See what will be the main aspects we will be including, or we have to consider when preparing an fire emergency evacuation plan. The first one is the evacuation strategy and action on discovered fire, and action on hearing the fire alarm. Might be in your location, fire is no fire didn't occur, but in some location nearby your location or beside your room or beside your office area, the fire has been discovered, and they have raised an alarm. In those cases, what you will do? That's the main what they have given in the third one. Action on hearing and fire alarm, and how to call whom, the fire brigade, and power and process isolation in case of any emergencies which will be needed for the isolation of the staff or the worker, whoever available in that emergency. Those people have to make sure that whatever equipment or whatever the power or any isolation like switching off or turning off the machinery or switching off the switchboards or something else, whatever need to be done like isolations, we have to do that one before leaving the room. Before leaving the room, we have to do that one. That's one of the main reasons, main things which have to be considered. And identification of key escape routes. Key escape routes are nothing but emergency exit routes. What are the main emergency exit routes and easier one for our escape? We have to identify those also. And fire wardens and marshals. Fire wardens and marshals are nothing but like you might have heard about the fire watches, like that one. Fire wardens and fire marshals will be there with a specialized training for them, who will be dealing in case of any emergencies of the major fires. The list will also be mentioned. Some flowcharts in our offices or in our work locations will be will be pasting the flowchart or contact numbers of the fire wardens as well as the fire marshals. And you have to identify the places of assembly points also, where the roll call, nothing but head count will be done at the assembly point itself. And provision of firefighting equipment, whether the firefighting equipment, adequate number of firefighting equipment and proper firefighting equipment has been provided in the locations. And requirement of training. This will also comes under the safety's responsibility. Even the management should also be responsible regarding that, regarding the trainings. Trainings are not only be given to the safety personnel, but to each and every staff as well as the workers also. In case of emergency, they will also involve. And personal emergency evacuation plan. In case of an emergency, what we'll be doing, how we'll be evacuating, everything. And license with emergency services, like calling the emergency services. That means beyond the organization, like government, health, fire department. If you need the that department's emergency services, will be we should have their contact numbers, everything as well. In case of any major fires which is out of our hands and which is out of our organization's hand also, which has to be, and reporting system also should be there to the emergency services in case of these types of fires or everything. Like whoever have been in Visakhapatnam, they might have heard about the fire which has been occurred in HPCL like 3 months or 4 months back. And not three months or 4 months back, it's almost 6 months back. It has occurred fire. In those cases, emergency services and even the fire department which is available with the HPCL, those both will be involving in putting out the fire and everything, and investigation will also be done. Any doubts?
No, sir.
No, sir.
అర్థమైందా చెప్పింది? సురేష్ కుమార్.
అర్థమైంది.
Okay.
Yes, I'm available. Yeah.
Okay. You are new to the class?
Yeah.
Okay. You are from?
I'm from Malaysia.
Huh?
I'm from Vizag only.
Okay.
Vizag.
Yeah, okay, you're from Vizag. You have
Yeah.
been in the safety field itself.
Yes, I have been for more than 15 years in overall EHS and as well as industrial hygiene. So
Okay.
purely pharmaceutical field, AP and bulk drugs, as well
Okay.
as formulation experience.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
देवेंद्र कुछ डाउट है क्या? Okay, we'll move on to the fire evacuation strategies. What are the strategies we have to consider while in case of any fire occurs, and in the means of an evacuation, what will be the strategies? We have to look into that one, and we'll be considering how the arrangements have been in while the evacuation is carried out, or fire evacuation is being carried out in the premises, and we will be preparing the fire risk assessment, and other fire precautions should also be considered while arranging any fire evacuations, like simultaneous evacuation means in case of any fire, already the fire has been uh, occurred and it's flaming. The fire is increasing bit by bit. In those times, simultaneously we have to do the evacuation also, and vertical phased evacuation, and staff alarm evacuation. After the alarm raising and everything, what will be doing, how we'll be evacuating and everything, and in the evacuations we will also be uh, noting down where the emergency assembly point is there, and nearest point also we have to point down the nearest assembly point also, so that in case of not even a fire, in case of any emergency, we will be rushing towards the nearest assembly point. Only one thing we have to make sure that in case of any emergency, we have to go to the nearest assembly point only, so that we can be safe and everything, not to go around or farthest of assembly points. We have to make sure. And most of the process plants and even the construction phase plants will be having directions towards the nearest assembly points and everything with signages. Action discovering a fire. What will be the actions when discovering a fire? On discover on any circumstances like discovering a fire, it's the duty of everyone to sound the nearest alarm or to inform the emergency team, fire team or any emergency team immediately, and we'll be escalating to everyone like superiors or everyone, and we'll be communicating to the neighboring personals who are working nearby to that location, so that we can evacuate easily. And by alarming, we can uh, we can inform the persons who are working nearby to our work location or the fire location to evacuate for their easy evacuation and everything, and to put out put off the fire also, because as soon as you raise the alarm, that in, information will be carried will be passed to the fire department or the emergency team who will be handling the fires to put off them. And we also this should also be considered in hospitals or nursing homes or even the buildings. And nowadays all the buildings are apart from the construction phases, this one the industrial, even the what you will be calling even the homes, our personal buildings, homes of residential buildings. Residential buildings, everything will be having a fire system, fire hydrant system, as well as fire evacuation plans also with the security, and they will be pasting. I have recently seen in one of the high-rise building, like it's around 15 or 20 floors. When I have entered newly into that residential complex, I have identified some these types of fire equipment as well as the fire emergency evacuations also. Like uh, these all will be considered in each and every locations nowadays. I'm not considering about the this one industrial phase, because in industrial phase it's a mandatory, but when it comes to the residential areas or some other things, but even the hospitals and nursing homes are also mandatory things that should be maintained in case of any phase. But in previous years, it's not that mandatory for this fire evacuation plans and firefighting equipments for the residential buildings. But nowadays it has been become mandatory for everything, and they are maintaining as per that standards. And we have to make sure that one also, that supporting equipment should be available. Whatever the equipment needed, those should be available in place. Wherever it should be required, in those places those equipment should be there, and it should not be removed or moved from that locations. And the third one will be action on hearing the alarm. In case of any fire alarm you have listened in your work location, what will be your next step on hearing the fire alarm? It's will be the plan will be instructing all the personnel on hearing a fire alarm to act in with the as per the strategy, or whatever the evacuation plan we have made, or what the strategy we have used in the fire evacuation, emergency evacuations. As per the plan, in case of any fire alarm, we'll be we'll be acting as per that one only. To uh, to acquaintance with those situations, we will be doing mock drills as well, so that we'll be checking whether the manpower, the working staff, and everyone, whether it might be staff or workers who are working inside as well as in office, whether they are acquainted to this situation or not, where their action is fast or not, to check. Will be doing mock drills, so that in case of any real fire occurs or real alarm arises, they'll be they'll be going directly to the assembly points in case of any emergency alarm. And in the offices as well as in the construction sites also, or yeah, most probably in the process plants we will be observing in the offices itself, and in some locations we'll be having display boards regarding in case of emergency fire, what we have to do, how to evacuate, and how to go to the assembly points, and with symbols and every outline drawing will be there, the location of the assembly point and everything. And on hearing the alarm, we should proceed to the predetermined positions to assist the members of the public and staff to leave the building. In case of an emergency, like whoever like working in a building, so it might be shopping complex or residential buildings and everything. In case of an emergency alarm raises, we will be moving to the determined positions to assist them to evacuate easily from the exit doors and everything. And The third point is one of the major points. Lifts and escalators are not supposed to be used in case of any emergencies, fire emergencies, mostly fire emergencies, because it may lead to it may have a possibility of electrical failure or part of any personal emergency also. We have to make sure that one lifts and escalators are not supposed to be used in case of any fire emergency. And calling the fire brigade. Fourth point, fire brigade is nothing the emergency services department who will be available if you need their help. We'll be calling the fire brigade only if you need their help, emergency services. But most probably, most of the plant will be having their own fire brigade team, firefighting team inside the plant itself, because that's one of the mandatory uh, requirements which has to be fulfilled while doing any processing and everything. And in case of the any fire which is beyond our limit, we will be calling the fire service team immediately, either by switchboard operator or person discovering fire, depending on the conditions. And even by calling or by what will we call it, by pressing the alarm, we can call the fire brigade team, because each and every alarm is connected to the fire control room as well. And either in the process plants you can find telephones as well, landline phones, emergency calling phones, so that in case of emergency, any emergency, you can call the emergency team, services team directly. And the fifth point is power and process isolation. What we have in the requirements, what will be the requirements and what requirements to be considered while preparing an emergency plan. Same, this one, power, close down or close down the procedure. No, I don't think so. Close down the procedure, that is adopt your own close down procedure as appropriate. Power or okay. It's an might be this one has been wrongly stated or something, but the power and process isolation are nothing but if you will be power isolation is nothing but whatever we are working in the location, those equipment should be shut down. If needed, process isolation like pipeline. If that pipeline, if the fire occurs from the pipelines or something, we have to isolate that one also to control the fire and everything. We have to make sure that one also. And identification of key escape routes. In the premises, in the work locations of public or persons unfamiliar with the layout, as I said in the previous slide, that we'll be having a layout drawings of the emergency evacuation plan. In the emergency evacuation plan, we will be having one of the it's also one of the major document, like layout plan should be there in case of any emergencies, like whatever the where the equipment is, like firefighting equipment, like hose reels or fire extinguisher, and even the nearest assembly points, wherever the assembly points are there, will be marking out with some identification mark for every fire extinguisher with the fire extinguisher symbol, and assembly point with a green background and a white assembly point, like that will be marking in this layout plan for the easy identification. And how to escape easily in case of an emergency will be yeah, just for unknown person or who is unfamiliar with the location, this layout plan will be useful for them to escape easily. Any doubts? In doubts level, okay.
No, sir.
లేదు సార్.
Devender, okay, देवेंद्र को भी कुछ डाउट नहीं है. देवेंद्र कुछ डाउट नहीं है. Okay. The seventh one, fire warden and fire marshals. As I said, the fire marshals, as we will be training for the personals who will be available at the work locations, the hot work locations like fire watchers. We will be identifying the persons who will be working in the site as well as in the offices to give them a safe this one, the fire warden or the fire marshal trainings, so that in case of any fire emergencies, they will guide the other persons, the colleagues or personnel who is available in the work site or in the office location to evacuate for the evacuation purposes and everything. And these persons are responsible for necessary safeguard and safety of employees. And as a and to and they are the fire warden and fire marshal is also uh, they are also responsible for this fire safety measures, like what are the requirements are there for the office, uh, like equipment, fire extinguisher or fire hose reel, whether if needed, fire hose reel if needed near to the location, because it depends upon the size of the office and everything. And fire extinguishers, how many fire extinguisher, quantity of fire extinguisher and location of fire extinguishers and escape routes and evacuation procedure, everything. These people, fire warden as well as fire marshal, will also be responsible for that one, because they, in case of emergencies, they'll know how to evacuate. These people will be trained by the third party. Most probably, these people will be having third party train. And places of assembly and roll call. And this one is nothing but assembly points previously determined, because the location should be free from obstructions and access to the assembly point should be free from any obstructions or materials, and access should be clear and everything. And assembly points are mainly used for the emergency purposes only. And after reaching to the emergency assembly points, the staff or the person who will be in charge or for the location, nearby location, or the security personnel or any safety personnel will be taking down the roll call. Nothing but head count. They will be taking the head count, whether to check whether everyone is there or not, or if anyone is missing. That's the roll call and the head count. If anyone is missing, we will be reporting directly to the emergency team who have been in the fireplace or the location place. They will be identifying whether he is available there or not, or he has been injured or he has been stuck in that emergency situation. And it is also very important to be familiar with the surroundings topography, and we have to be familiar with the surroundings of this assembly point and everything. That means nothing but will be how we will be directing to the assembly point in the easiest way, in the shortest way we have to go. and we have to identify that one, which assembly point, because every location will be having so many assembly points. Like big plant depends upon the size also. The if it's a big plant, it will be having around 10 or 15 assembly point locations, for example, I'm saying. But you have to be familiar with your nearest assembly point, so that in case of emergency you will be directly going to the nearest assembly point by not going to the farther one. We have to make sure that one also we should be familiar. The assembly point should be enough away from the building, not to put staff in danger. That's only the main reason. Should not be far away from the locations. Should be nearer, or it might be building. Just to whoever might be the working personnel or the staff, not to put them in a danger. That's it. And shelters or weather protections may be necessary as the staff have to evacuate it. Depends upon the location and depends upon the area of the this one. If weather protection or shelters are needed for the assembly point, there we have to provide. If not, it's not a mandatory one. Depends upon the location and everything. We have to make sure that one. Okay, 2.5 minutes left. If you have any doubts, just let me know.
సార్ ఒకసారి అసెంబ్లీ పాయింట్ గురించి చెప్తారా సార్ తెలుగులో?
తెలుగులోనా? ఓకే, చెప్తాను. అసెంబ్లీ పాయింట్ అంటే ఏం లేదు, నీకు ఎప్పుడన్నా ఎమర్జెన్సీ అయినప్పుడు వర్క్ లొకేషన్లో అప్పుడు మనం ఫస్ట్ వెళ్ళాల్సింది ఏంటంటే అక్కడి నుంచి వెళ్ళిపోవాలి. వర్క్ లొకేషన్ నుంచి బయటకు వెళ్ళిపోయి మనం ఉండాల్సింది ఏంటంటే అసెంబ్లీ పాయింట్ దగ్గర అందరూ గ్యాదర్ అయ్యేటట్టు. అంటే ఎక్కడైతే లొకేషన్లో ఎమర్జెన్సీ అయిందో అక్కడ ఉన్న మనుషులందరూ బయటకు వెళ్ళిపోతారు. అది ఏ ఎమర్జెన్సీ అన్నా అవని, ఫైర్ ఎమర్జెన్సీ అవని, లేకపోతే గ్యాస్ రిలీజ్ అవని, లేకపోతే ఎనీ ఎమర్జెన్సీ అవని, అలారం విన్నా కానీ ఏమైనా ఎమర్జెన్సీ అయినా కానీ మనం ఫస్ట్ వెళ్ళాల్సింది అసెంబ్లీ పాయింట్కి వెళ్ళాలన్నమాట. ఎందుకంటే అక్కడ హెడ్ కౌంట్ కానీ రోల్ కాల్ కానీ, అంటే మనుషులందరూ వర్క్ చేస్తున్న మనుషులందరూ ఇక్కడికి వచ్చారా లేదా అనేసి చెక్ చేస్తారు. ఒకవేళ ఎవరైనా తగ్గారు అంటే ఓకే, ఆ ఎమర్జెన్సీ లొకేషన్లో ఏమన్నా ట్రాప్ అయ్యారా, ఏమన్నా అయిందా అనేసి ఆల్రెడీ ఎమర్జెన్సీ సర్వీసెస్ టీమ్ ఉంది కదా, వాళ్ళకి రిపోర్ట్ చేస్తే వాళ్ళు చెక్ చేస్తారనమాట. అసెంబ్లీ పాయింట్ ఇదొకటి. నెక్స్ట్ ఇంకోటి ఏంటంటే వాళ్ళు ఇచ్చిన సెకండ్ పాయింట్లో మనం ఏ లొకేషన్లో పనిచేసినా కానీ దగ్గరలో ఉన్న అసెంబ్లీ పాయింట్కి మనం వెళ్ళేదంత ఫెమిలియర్గా ఉండాలి. మనం తెలుసుకోవాలి. తెలుసుకుంటేనే కదా మన దగ్గర ఉన్న అసెంబ్లీ పాయింట్కి మనం వెళ్ళగలం ఏమన్నా ఎమర్జెన్సీ అయితే. అది సరౌండింగ్స్ వాటికి ఫెమిలియర్గా ఉంటే అప్పుడు మనం ఈజీగా వెళ్ళిపోవచ్చు అనమాట ఏమన్నా ఎమర్జెన్సీ అయితే. తర్వాత దూరంగా ఉండకూడదు. ఎమర్జెన్సీ లొకేషన్స్ మన నార్మల్గా దూరంగా ఉండవు. మనం ఏంటంటే మోస్ట్ ప్రాబబ్లీ మనం ఎత్తుక్కోవాల్సింది ఏంటంటే ఏవన్నా ఎమర్జెన్సీ సిచ్యువేషన్ వచ్చినప్పుడు మన దగ్గరలో ఉన్న అసెంబ్లీ పాయింట్ ఎక్కడో చూసుకోవాలి. ఎందుకంటే ఆ సైట్కి ఒక 10, 15, 20 ఎన్నో అసెంబ్లీ పాయింట్స్ ఉంటాయి. కానీ నీ ఉన్న లొకేషన్కి దగ్గరలో ఏ అసెంబ్లీ పాయింట్ ఉందో అక్కడికి వెళ్ళాలి. ఆ లెక్కను చూసుకోవాలి. ఎందుకంటే దూరం నుంచి వెళ్ళాం అనుకో, దానివల్ల ఇంకా నీకు డేంజర్ కానీ ఏదన్నా అవ్వచ్చు. అందుకనమాట. అది కూడా వీడేంటంటే షెల్టర్ కానీ వెదర్ ప్రొటెక్షన్ కానీ ఏమన్నా అవసరమైతే